It all started one ordinary evening, the kind of evening where nothing seemed out of place. I had just finished a long day, and the silence of my house felt comforting. The kind of silence that feels safe, almost peaceful. I was sitting in my room, reading a book, when I first felt it. At first, I tried to ignore it, but the feeling grew stronger with each passing second. It was as if something or someone was watching me. I looked around the room, but it was empty. The windows were closed, the door locked, yet the sensation didn't leave me. I went back to my book, thinking I was just being paranoid. But it wasn't just a passing feeling, it was a presence, something intangible but undeniable. I couldn't shake the thought that I wasn't alone. Suddenly a cold breath brushed against my cheek. It was sudden, unexpected, and sent a shiver down my spine. I jumped to my feet, my heart racing. There was no logical explanation for it. The windows were shut tight, and there was no draft. It had to be something else. I looked around again, my mind racing. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination, but deep down I knew it wasn't. I walked over to the kitchen, trying to calm myself down, but the unease was growing. I paused in front of the open kitchen door. There, on the floor, were footprints. Wet footprints. The kind of footprints you would see if someone had walked through the house in the rain. But no one had been here except me. I froze. My mind raced to make sense of it. I lived alone. How could this happen? I had to know. My curiosity outweighed my fear, so I followed the footprints. They led me to a door I had never noticed before, a door hidden behind the old wooden cabinets in the hallway. It wasn't locked, but it had never been opened. I hesitated before I pushed it open. The room inside was different. It wasn't like any room I'd ever seen in my house. It felt ancient, old beyond my understanding. There were books on dusty shelves, their pages yellowed with age. Strange symbols adorned the walls, and the air felt thick, heavy with secrets. And then I saw it. At the center of the room, an old, worn box sat on a table, as if waiting for me. I couldn't resist. I opened the box, and inside was a book that seemed to hum with energy, its pages almost glowing faintly. My hands shook as I turned the first page. The words were ancient, written in a language I couldn't understand. But as I read them aloud, something strange happened. The room seemed to shift around me. The shadows grew darker, the air colder. I couldn't explain it, but I could feel something. Someone was watching me again, but this time I wasn't alone. The room began to distort, and suddenly I was no longer in my house. I was somewhere else. It was a vast, shadowy realm, endless and suffocating. The air was thick with an ominous presence. The walls seemed to pulse, as if alive. I turned around, and that's when I saw him. A figure stood at the end of the hallway, his face hidden in shadows, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. "You shouldn't have opened it," he said, in a voice that sent chills down my spine. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he stepped closer, his form flickering like a flame caught in the wind. "I was once like you. I too was curious. But curiosity has its price." "What is this place? What have I done?" I asked, panicking.
This is the place between worlds, the place where the forgotten things live, the ones that are lost, the ones that should never be remembered. You've entered the world of shadows, and now you belong to it. I felt my breath catch in my throat. I turned and tried to run, but the hallway stretched out endlessly before me. The walls closed in, and I couldn't escape. The figure was everywhere, his voice echoing in my mind. "You're here because you found the book," he said. "The book is not just a book, it's a gateway. and once you've opened it, there's no going back. I stopped in my tracks, feeling the weight of his words. How do I get out? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. You can't. Not unless you solve the riddle, he replied. A riddle? I asked, confused. He nodded. The riddle of this place. If you can unlock its secret, you can leave. But it's not just any riddle. It's a riddle of the soul. The answer lies within you. I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. The thought of being trapped here forever was unbearable. What is the riddle? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. The figure smiled, but it was not a reassuring smile. You will understand soon enough. But remember this. The answer is not what you expect. It's not a question of the mind, but of the heart. And then, before I could react, he vanished. The hallway faded into the darkness, and I was alone once again. The weight of his words hung heavily in the air. I knew I had to find the answer. But where? How? The walls around me shifted, and I saw images flashing before my eyes. Memories. Visions of things I had forgotten. Things I had buried deep within my soul. I knew the riddle was connected to these memories, but how could I make sense of them? The darkness seemed to consume everything around me. But deep down, I knew I had to find the answer. I had to remember. As I closed my eyes, the memories began to come back to me. Images of my childhood, of the places I used to go, of the people I had lost. It was all so clear now. I had to face the truth. The truth about myself, about the past, about the darkness that had followed me my entire life. I found the answer. It wasn't a word or a phrase, but a realization. The darkness had always been there, inside me. I had been running from it, hiding from it. But it was a part of me. Only by accepting it could I escape. When I opened my eyes, I was back in the room. The book was closed. The shadows were gone. The air was lighter, and I could feel the weight lifting from my shoulders. But I knew, deep down, that I would never be the same. I had seen the truth, and it had changed me. I had solved the riddle, but the cost was high. I wasn't sure if I was truly free, or if I was just a part of the shadow world now. Either way, the secret was out, and there was no turning back. I left the room, but as I stepped into the hallway, I couldn't shake the feeling that the shadows were still watching me, waiting.